Just tell them you fell down the stairs. My mother's voice was barely a whisper, her perfectly manicured nails digging into my arm as I lay in the hospital bed. Remember, Marcus is about to start medical school. We can't let this incident ruin his future. I was 24, and this wasn't the first time my mother had asked me to lie about my injuries, but it was definitely the worst. The throbbing pain in my back was unlike anything I'd experienced before, even during Marcus's previous episodes. My name is Emma Sullivan, and I'd spent my entire life walking on eggshells around my older brother. Marcus was my parents' golden child. Brilliant, charming, and destined to become a doctor. He was also violent, with a temper that could explode at any moment. This time, it had exploded because I'd refused to give him my savings. He needed money for medical school applications, he said. When I said no, he'd thrown me against our parents' granite kitchen counter with such force that I'd felt something crack in my spine. Mrs. Sullivan. A nurse appeared in the doorway. The doctor would like to discuss your daughter's x-rays. My mother straightened up, smoothing her designer blouse. Of course. Emma knows what to say, don't you, sweetheart? I nodded weakly, watching her follow the nurse out. From the corner of the room, Marcus finally spoke. You better keep your mouth shut, little sister, he said, his voice carrying that familiar threatening edge. Nobody will believe you anyway. I'm the one going to medical school, remember? They'll trust my version of events. The worst part was he was probably right. Marcus had always been convincing. When we were kids, he convinced our parents that I'd broken my own arm trying to climb a tree. Not that he pushed me out of it. When I was 16, they believed him when he said my sprained wrist was from falling off my bike, not from him twisting it until I gave him my birthday money. Dr. Evans entered the room, flipping through my charts. The x-rays show severe trauma to your lower vertebrae, she said, looking at me with concern. This type of injury is unusual for a simple fall downstairs. I could feel Marcus's eyes boring into me from across the room. I'm very clumsy, I mumbled, the practiced lie tasting bitter in my mouth. Dr. Evans frowned, but before she could respond, my mother swept back in. When can we take her home? She asked, her social smile firmly in place. Emma has always been accident-prone, haven't you, dear? Actually, Dr. Evans said, given the severity of the injury, I'm recommending immediate admission and a consultation with our spine specialist. We'll also need to start physical therapy as soon as possible. My mother's smile faltered slightly. Surely that's not necessary. We have a private doctor who can. This isn't negotiable, Mrs. Sullivan, Dr. Evans cut in firmly. Your daughter has suffered significant trauma. She needs professional care. That evening, after my family finally left, a young woman entered my room. She introduced herself as Kate Morrison, the physical therapist assigned to my case. Let's take a look at what we're dealing with, she said, her voice warm but professional. As she helped me sit up, her hands gentle but sure, I couldn't help but wince. Pain scale of 1 to 10, she asked. 8, I admitted. She nodded, making notes. I'm going to need to see your previous medical records. Dr. Evans mentioned some concerning patterns in your x-rays, old injuries that never properly healed. My heart started racing. I'm just clumsy. Kate stopped writing and looked at me directly. Her green eyes were kind but intense. Emma, I've worked with many patients over the years. I know the difference between accident injuries and other kinds. Something in her voice made me want to tell her everything. But Marcus's threat echoed in my head, along with years of my mother's conditioning about keeping family matters private. I can't, I whispered, tears burning in my eyes. You can't, she repeated softly, or you're afraid to. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Remember, not a word about Marcus. We're telling everyone you fell. Don't disappoint the family. Kate saw the message before I could hide my phone. Her expression shifted from concern to determination. Emma, she said, pulling up a chair beside my bed. I want to show you something. She took out her tablet and pulled up a series of x-rays. These are your scans from today, but look at these shadows here and here. She pointed to several spots on my spine. These show old fractures, Emma, multiple injuries that healed without proper medical attention. I stayed silent, my heart pounding. I can help you, Kate continued, her voice gentle but firm. But only if you're willing to tell me the truth. Whatever you're afraid of, whatever threats you're under, I promise you, there are people who will believe you, Who will help you? For the first time in my life, someone was offering me a way out. But could I trust her? Could I risk everything by speaking up? As if reading my thoughts, Kate added, "You don't have to decide right now. But know this, as your physical therapist, I'm mandated to report suspected abuse. These injuries tell a story, Emma. The question is, are you ready to tell yours?" I looked at her, then back at my phone where my mother's threat still glowed on the screen. 24 years of silence weighed against the possibility of finally being free. I started, my voice barely a whisper. "I think I'm ready to talk." Kate kept her word. The next morning, she returned with Dr. Evans and a social worker named Diana. As I began sharing my story, years of carefully hidden trauma spilled out like a broken dam. I told them about growing up with Marcus's unpredictable rage, how my parents had always protected him, convinced his brilliant future was worth any price, even if that price was my safety. I described the countless accidents that weren't accidents at all. The broken fingers when I was 12. He caught me using his computer. The cracked ribs at 16. I'd embarrassed him in front of his friends. And now my damaged spine. "Your brother's applying to medical school?" Diana asked, taking detailed notes. "And your parents are covering this up to protect his future?" I nodded, twisting the hospital blanket between my fingers. "They've already paid his application fees. Mom says he's destined to be a brilliant doctor." "A doctor who breaks his sister's bones," Kate said quietly, her voice tight with controlled anger. "Emma, you realize we can't let this continue." Just then, my phone buzzed. Another text from my mother. "Marcus is coming to visit this afternoon. Remember our discussion." Kate saw the color drain from my face. "He's not coming anywhere near you," she said firmly. "Not anymore." Within hours, hospital security had been notified. A restraining order was being processed, and my room was moved to a secure wing with restricted access. For the first time in my life, people were actually protecting me instead of my abuser. But my mother wasn't giving up so easily. She showed up that afternoon, her face a mask of barely controlled fury. "What do you think you're doing?" she hissed after somehow talking her way into my room. "Do you want to destroy this family?" Marcus called me, crying. "They won't even let him in to see his own sister." "Mrs. Sullivan," Kate's voice cut through the air as she entered the room, "you're not supposed to be here." "I'm her mother," she snapped. "You have no right to keep me from my daughter." "Actually, we have every right," Kate replied calmly. "Emma has reported a history of domestic abuse, and as her healthcare provider, I'm obligated to ensure her safety." My mother's face went pale. "Abuse? Don't be ridiculous. Emma's just attention-seeking. She's always been jealous of Marcus's success." "We have x-rays spanning years," Kate continued, unmoved. "Documentation of multiple injuries consistent with physical assault. Emma's finally telling the truth, and there's no going back." "The truth?" My mother laughed bitterly. "The truth is that she's trying to ruin her brother's life. Marcus has a future. He's going to help people." "Help people?" I found my voice, surprising myself with its strength. "Like he helped me? By breaking my bones? By making me live in constant fear?" "Emma," my mother warned, but I wasn't finished. "No, Mom, I'm done protecting him. Kate's right, there's no going back. I won't let you silence me anymore." Security arrived moments later, escorting my protesting mother out. As her voice faded down the hallway, I began to shake, the full weight of what I'd done hitting me. Kate sat beside my bed, her presence steady and reassuring. "You did the right thing, Emma. It won't be easy, but you're not alone anymore." She was right about it not being easy. Over the next few days, my father called repeatedly, alternating between threats and pleas. Marcus sent messages through various numbers, each one more menacing than the last. But Kate and the hospital staff remained vigilant, screening my calls and visitors. My physical therapy sessions became a sanctuary. Kate worked with me daily, helping me regain strength not just in my body, but in my spirit. She listened without judgment as I processed years of trauma, offering support and practical advice. "Your spine is healing," she told me during one session, "but we need to work on your emotional healing too. Have you considered pressing charges?" I had. Diana, the social worker, had already discussed my options. The documented injuries, combined with my testimony, would make a strong case. But the thought of facing Marcus in court terrified me. "He'll find a way to charm everyone," I said, wincing as Kate helped me through a stretch. He always does. Not this time, she replied firmly. You have evidence, Emma. You have witnesses. Most importantly, you have your voice, and we're all listening. As if to prove her point, she showed me a letter that had arrived that morning. The medical school where Marcus had applied was rescinding his acceptance pending investigation. Apparently, multiple reports of his violent behavior had surfaced once people realized they'd be believed. Your brother's actions have consequences, Kate said, watching me read the letter. And so does your parents' choice to enable him. You're not responsible for protecting them anymore. I looked at Kate, this woman who becomes so much more than just my physical therapist. She'd given me something I'd never had before, the courage to stand up for myself. I want to press charges, I said finally, not just for me, but for anyone else he might hurt if he becomes a doctor. Kate smiled, squeezing my hand. Then that's exactly what we'll do, together. 6 months after my hospital admission, I sat in a courthouse, Kate beside me, waiting for the proceedings to begin. The past months had been a roller coaster of police interviews, depositions, and intense physical therapy. My spine was healing, though I'd likely always have some pain. But my spirit, once broken like my bones, was stronger than ever. Marcus sat across the aisle with our parents, wearing a carefully crafted expression of concern. He tried to paint himself as a loving brother who'd made a few mistakes, but the evidence told a different story. My medical records, spanning years of documented injuries, spoke volumes, and I wasn't his only victim. After my story became public, other people came forward. 3 of his ex-girlfriends reported physical abuse. A former classmate described being hospitalized after Marcus accidentally pushed him down a flight of stairs. Each incident had been carefully buried, just like mine, by our parents' influence and money. All rise, the bailiff called. As the judge entered, Kate squeezed my hand. She'd been my rock through everything, attending every hearing, every therapy session, both physical and psychological. The prosecution presented a devastating case. X-rays flashed across screens, each one showing another injury I'd suffered. Medical experts testified about the pattern of abuse. My voice shook but held steady as I described the latest attack that had damaged my spine. Then came the surprise testimony that changed everything. Our childhood nanny, Mrs. Porter, who left suddenly when I was 13, took the stand. I tried to report it back then, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I saw Marcus hurt Emma countless times. But Mr. and Mrs. Sullivan threatened to ruin my career if I spoke up. They said no one would believe me over their son. My mother's perfectly composed facade cracked. My father stared at his hands. Marcus's face darkened with the familiar rage I knew so well. The verdict came swiftly. Marcus was found guilty of multiple counts of assault and battery. The judge's words rang through the courtroom. 5 years in prison with mandatory counseling. Additionally, this court recommends a permanent ban from practicing medicine. My parents sat frozen as their golden child was led away in handcuffs. Their carefully constructed world of denial had finally crumbled. But the story didn't end there. Kate had helped me see that healing meant more than just physical recovery. With her encouragement, I'd started volunteering at a domestic violence support group, sharing my story with others trapped in cycles of family abuse. You're an inspiration, Kate told me after one particularly emotional session. Do you know that? I smiled, remembering how far I'd come from that terrified girl in the hospital bed. I had a good teacher. You did all the hard work, she insisted. I just showed you the door. You walked through it yourself. A year after the trial, I stood before a room full of physical therapy students at the local university. Kate had invited me to speak about patient advocacy and recognizing signs of domestic abuse. Sometimes, I told them, the most important part of healing isn't the physical therapy. It's having someone believe you when the whole world is telling you to stay quiet. One person who refuses to look away can change everything. I caught Kate's eye in the audience, remembering how she'd been that person for me. She'd seen past my lies about being clumsy, past my family's careful facade, and shown me that I deserved better. My parents tried to contact me several times after the trial. My mother left tearful voicemails about family loyalty. My father sent letters promising things would be different. But Kate helped me understand that I didn't owe them forgiveness or another chance to hurt me. Healing doesn't mean you have to let toxic people back into your life, she'd said. Sometimes it means learning to choose yourself. And I did choose myself. I went back to school, studying to become a counselor. I moved into my own apartment, adopted a cat, and slowly built a life free from fear. The nightmares about Marcus became less frequent. The pain in my spine became manageable. Today, 3 years after that fateful hospital admission, I work with domestic violence survivors, helping them find their voices just as I found mine. Kate and I remain close friends, occasionally working together when her patients need emotional support alongside their physical therapy. Marcus still writes sometimes, claiming he's changed in prison. My parents still try to guilt me into reconciliation, but I don't respond. Instead, I focus on the family I've chosen, friends like Kate who support and protect me, and the community of survivors I work with who understand my journey. Last week, I received a card from Mrs. Porter, our former nanny. Inside was a photo of me at 12, sitting on our old porch swing. On the back she'd written, "I'm sorry I couldn't protect you then, but I'm so proud of how you've learned to protect yourself." I pinned the photo to my office wall, next to my counseling certification and the thank you notes from clients. It reminds me daily that while we can't change our past, we can always change our future. Sometimes all it takes is one person willing to speak up, to fight back, to say enough. And sometimes